What's up, everybody? You see the title of the video here, ranking 2017's comic book movies. This is something that I knew I was going to do even before, I think even before Thor Ragnarok came out. But definitely now that I have seen all the movies, I've been thinking back a lot about them, and I gotta be upfront. This was not easy to do, to try to rank these movies, because this has been a pretty solid year for comic book movies. I don't feel like there was any duds. Now, I know some people would disagree with me, but in my opinion, I think every movie had good qualities to it. So quick notes here before I really get into this. First of all, the purpose of this video is just to share my own opinions, not trying to change anybody else's mind. How you feel is how you feel. You respect my opinions, I respect yours. Obviously, I don't expect everybody to agree with the way that I'm going to rank these movies. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure most people will disagree with the way that I'm going to rank these movies, but that's okay. We each have our own opinions. Also, this is not a Marvel versus DC video. I just like comic books in general, and it's not just about Marvel and DC anyway. There are other companies, there's independent creators as well. So again, this is not some Marvel versus DC video. I think that mentality makes no sense. Even the executives that work for these companies say that that doesn't really make sense, because they appreciate all comics in general as well. So that's not the focus here. Now, obviously, there are going to be some spoilers. It's kind of tough for me to rank movies without giving good justification, so I'm going to have to get into spoilers. So if you have not seen all of these movies, you may want to check out of this video and come back to it later on. Last warning, there will be some spoilers as I go along here, and I am about to go ahead and get into this right now. So at number 6, for me personally, of course, is Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, I definitely do like the casting of Tom Holland. I think overall he's a solid Peter Parker in Spider-Man. One thing that bothered me about his portrayal of the character, and this is not on the actor, this is on the writing, I don't think we got to see him being tech savvy enough and really putting his intelligence to use. I mean, we saw his friend helping him out with the suit, and obviously he got, support from Tony Stark with his technology. But we really did, and we know that he developed his own web shooters, but overall, we just didn't get to see him do enough as the character, really putting his intelligence to use. And I think that's kind of unfortunate. I think that sells the character short just a little bit. Now, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, I think he was one of the better villains recently in comic book movies. I think he did a pretty solid job, and even though he did have a ruthless side to him, he was almost too much of a sympathetic and nice guy to a certain extent. And that's kind of an issue I had with the movie overall. I just didn't feel like Peter Parker was ever threatened enough or in danger enough, because in the long run, Vulture wouldn't even give up his identity. And I mean, you could say it's because Peter Parker had, took his daughter out on a date, but yeah, it took a lot of tension away from the movie for me. And like I said, because Peter Parker, Spider-Man, had so much support. I mean, he had Tony Stark on his side. He had Happy Hogan basically babysitting him. He had good friends around him. He had Aunt May. It just never really felt like there was much peril. And I know we know that Spider-Man is going to win in the long run, but you should feel like something is really at stake. And I just did not feel that with this movie. I didn't like Flash Thompson in this movie. I didn't like the way he was written. I didn't like the way that he was cast. And that has nothing to do with ethnicity. It's just, I thought Flash Thompson could have been a more interesting character to really set him up for more interesting things like has happened in the comics. In the comics, if you really know the comics, you know that Flash Thompson went from being a bully to being a war hero to being a superhero in his own right as Agent Venom. Now, I know Sony is holding on to the Venom name pretty tight, but still, Flash Thompson could have been a more interesting character, and here he was just sort of an annoying pipsqueak pretty much. And then they did kind of shoehorn in the Shocker, and we actually saw that moniker change hands, which, again, that's true to the comics, so that was fine. But the Shocker was definitely not an interesting villain by any means. He was just kind of there, and even the last confrontation with him was pretty weak. And there again, Peter Parker Spider-Man got help. One more thing that kind of bugged me about Spider-Man Homecoming a little bit is, okay, Pepper Potts has been missing for a couple of movies, and they decided to bring her back at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming. It felt odd. I mean, because, Tony Stark, this is something he's really been dealing with. You saw that weight on his shoulders in, Captain America Civil War, not having her around, how it was hurting him. And, yeah, it just felt like a weird time to bring her back to me. So that kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. And I was like, and like what came to my mind right away, I'm not thinking about the movie anymore. I'm just thinking, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow's schedule must have opened up. And that's not the type of thing I should be thinking while I'm watching a comic book movie, you know. So yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming, not a bad movie by any means, but definitely not my favorite of the year. And in terms of entertainment value, I was just kind of, I was almost bored, to be honest, in the theater. Thor Ragnarok, I know Thor Ragnarok is at the top of a lot of people's lists, and I will agree, this movie was a lot more fun than the other Thor movies, which I think are, you know, some of Marvel's weakest. And there are definitely strong points to the movie. I thought, you know, it was definitely great to see how they kind of put in the whole Planet Hulk aspect of it. I thought Thor versus Hulk was cool. Hulk was cool in general. And it's good to see Bruce Banner back. And Chris Hemsworth just having fun playing Thor, that was great to see, because I think he's been having fun playing the character, but we got to see that a lot more. And as far as the comedy goes, I actually liked Thor the most. I mean, I thought Chris Hemsworth did a great job with his delivery and his timing and everything. It was a great, like, not just action role for him, but also comedic role for him within this movie. I thought Cate Blanchett was pretty solid overall. She wasn't given a whole lot to work with as a villain, but what she definitely had charisma about her, and she really enjoyed playing evil. You could tell that. Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master, I'm glad he wasn't overly silly. He actually held it back some, and I thought he did a good job. That was a smart move on his part. I thought Valkyrie was pretty cool. We didn't really get a whole lot about her background, just a little bit. I mean, just enough basically. But overall, she was a solid addition, you know, to the series. I do kind of wonder, like, what happened with Lady Sif, though. That did bug me a little bit. And I mean, if anybody knows, please tell me, like, what in the world happened with Lady Sif, because I really did like that character. And then the Warriors 3 just being killed in no time. I was like, wow, okay. You know, that was kind of surprising. But, you know, getting back to Thor, though, I thought it was cool that we saw that Thor learned that he didn't need that hammer to really be the Thunder God. You know, that was very cool that we got to see him really use his power that he has within. And that's kind of a running theme that I noticed lately with comic book movies, and I like that. I mean, we saw the same thing in Spider-Man Homecoming, where Tony Stark had already learned that lesson himself, that he's Iron Man even without the suits. He said that at the end of Iron Man 3, you know, I am Iron Man, like he said at the end of Iron Man 1. But it had a different connotation there. Like he realized he's not all about the suits, and he was trying to teach that to Peter Parker. So I thought it was very cool in this movie as well that Thor realized he's not all about that hammer. You know, so I really did like that. That was pretty cool. Now, as far as Loki is concerned, Loki's shtick has gotten kind of old to me, and it's so predictable at this point that it was even predictable for Thor. You know, he knew that Loki was going to try to pull something, and he easily stopped him from doing that. So yeah, at this point, even though Loki has typically been a great Marvel villain, I'm just not really into him anymore. I feel like it's kind of the same, you know, like just things repeated with him, and it's just not really doing it for me anymore. And him being such a clever trickster, he shouldn't be that predictable, you know, but he is. He's gotten to that point now. Korg, I thought Korg was voiced very well. I like that the director actually did the voice for the character. It was an unexpected voice, but his humor sometimes kind of undercut the drama, especially when Asgard was being destroyed and they had that little joke in there. I thought that was really out of place, and that was my main issue with this movie is, you know, this is Thor Ragnarok. Ragnarok as in the end of all things. The stakes should have felt a lot higher. There should have been some dramatic weight to it, but there just wasn't, because things were moving so quickly, and like I said, sometimes the humor undercut the drama. So Asgard being destroyed should have been more impactful. Odin dying should have been a lot more impactful, and it just wasn't. So I thought that was a big disappointment for this movie, and that's where the movie kind of let me down, even though I was entertained by it overall. So number 4, Justice League. And yes, I know a lot of people are trashing this movie right now and putting it at the bottom of their list, but I don't really get that personally. I mean, I respect other people's opinion, but for people that saying that Justice League is not as good as Batman vs Superman, I am baffled by that, because there are a lot of people that really defended Batman vs Superman, which I just did not like that movie. Every once in a while I may watch the action scenes from that movie, because I thought that was maybe the only saving grace to it. But yeah, I just don't understand why some people really hate on Justice League and yet they defend Batman vs Superman. It's kind of odd to me. So I did like the cast of this movie. Of course, we had the addition of Ray Fisher as Cyborg, which he wasn't given a whole lot to play off of. I mean, he's basically the tech guy, which is no surprise there, but I thought Ray Fisher was pretty solid, and I'm really glad that they cleaned up the effects for the Cyborg suit. You know, it looked a lot better than in those early previews. I thought Flash was very solid, and I figured that actor would do a good job. Ezra Miller, because he's a talented actor. If you've ever seen any of his other work, you know how talented he is. And he did a good job with the humor, even though he may have overplayed it a little bit at times with his whole twitchy eye roll thing type, you know, going on. But overall, though, he was solid. And then Jason Momoa definitely was having fun as Aquaman. And there were little moments where you could tell that he's capable of that dramatic weight with the character as well. So I really look forward now to the standalone Aquaman movie. Once again, Gal Gadot was phenomenal as Wonder Woman. I thought Ben Affleck did a great job as Batman. And I'm really glad that Batman was not like at the center of the movie constantly. I did appreciate that, because I know it's always tempting for Warner Brothers to go there with it. And I thought it was very cool that we actually got to see Batman in action early on in the movie. And it's just so great that we finally get to see Batman moving the way that Batman should move around. That's something that was kind of missing from the Nolan trilogy, I think. You know, this Batman that we have right now, even though this might be the last time we see Ben Affleck as Batman, possibly, I just like the way that he moves like I think the character should. And Superman returning, we knew he was going to come back. I thought it was very cool that it was actually the team that worked together to bring back Superman. I thought that was pretty awesome. One thing that they kept out of the previews that I appreciate is the Justice League fighting Superman. That was a complete surprise for me, and I was just grinning from ear to ear when that happened, because I'm like, yes, like I wanted to see what would happen if Superman just lost it and just how dangerous he could be. And that was just an awesome action sequence to me. And that moment when Flash was running behind him and Superman looks back at him, that was so funny to me. I love that moment. It was really good. And it actually ties into what we saw in Batman versus Superman. Remember, we got that vision or dream that Batman had, where he saw what would happen if Superman were to basically lose it and side with Darkseid. Even though they still didn't really explain how it is that Batman had that dream, maybe that will be explained eventually. But I thought it was great to that they addressed that, and that Batman actually realized, thanks to the Flash, you know, coming back from the future and giving him that warning, you know, it's all about her, you know, about Lois, that he was smart enough to bring Lois onto the scene. He realized that they couldn't brute force Superman, that it would take Lois to calm him down. And who knows, if Lois hadn't have been there, maybe he would have just completely lost it and gone completely dark. And there is still the potential there for Superman at some point to lose it again, you know, so I like that aspect of it. But, you know, we got to see this very dark interpretation of Superman where he was fighting them. But then we also got to see a much lighter version of Superman. Finally, Henry Cavill actually getting to smile and joke around as Superman. That was really good to see as well. And he got to use like the full extent of his powers. We got to see him do the freeze breath, which is pretty cool, you know, to finally destroy Steppenwolf's axe and all of that. So, yeah, I feel like Henry Cavill got to have a lot more fun with the character, and, you know, me in turn, I had a lot more fun watching the character. And I also like the fan service in this movie. I thought it was phenomenal. Superman racing the Flash. I mean, you know, it's been done multiple times in the comics. It's been done in animation. That was very cool to see. that was a great surprise scene. And the most surprising scene, of course, was that after credit scene, Lex Luthor linking up with Deathstroke. That was just awesome. And Jesse Eisenberg, I know his portrayal of Lex Luthor is just not what it needs to be, basically. Hopefully he will learn to adjust, and I think it's a smart move to set up a Legion of Doom or an Injustice team as the next set of villains instead of jumping right to Darkseid, because I do feel like Darkseid should be saved, you know, for maybe the team to be more developed and maybe even more characters brought into the mix. So I'm fine with them pushing back Darkseid some, even though maybe Darkseid should have had a little cameo within this movie, and I will address that more in just a second here. But I did like to see Mira and you know, just a slight look at Atlantis, which, like I said, I'm more interested now in the actual Aquaman movie, especially seeing how they can do the effects underwater and everything, because I know that's a tough challenge. But the little bit that we got to see, I think it looked pretty good. And Mira, whew, yeah, Mira looked good. Also, I like that flashback scene where it was the Amazonians, you know, the citizens of Atlantis, Green Lantern Corps, And there were some gods and goddesses mixed in there too. I love that action scene, and I know it's full of Easter eggs. I can't wait to watch that on Blu-ray and actually take the time and kind of pick out all those Easter eggs. I think they may have even snuck you know, a version of Shazam in the mix there possibly. So yeah, I really can't wait to check out that scene again. Like I said, a lot of great fan service within this movie. It was just a lot of fun. Now, Steppenwolf, I know a lot of people do not like Steppenwolf. Some people even said he looked like a video game character, which I think is a little bit exaggerated. CG is just going to come along with these movies, you know, so I don't think it's fair to always complain about a CG character. You know, some definitely do look better than others, and I don't think Steppenwolf looked as bad as some people said. And I actually do like his design overall. I like his armor, I like the giant axe and all of that. Really would like to see a great statue of this character. You know, that's something I would consider trying to save up for and pick up possibly, because statues can be pricey, but that's something I would like to see. But I will say though, I can definitely agree that he didn't have enough depth to him. There should have been maybe more background to him, maybe even more dialogue with him to make him more interesting. I can understand that, but like I said, I think people are being maybe a little bit too harsh on the representation of the character. One thing I do want to say quickly here before I move on, the way that Steppenwolf was dispatched at the end, okay, we know that the parademons were turned against him because of fear and all of that, but then the boom tube opened up and it took him back, and that's where they should have had maybe a little quick cameo of Darkseid. Even if they didn't show Darkseid full on, they should have showed that maybe it was Darkseid pulling him back because he had failed. The fact that they didn't explain that at all, I thought that was kind of lame. That's something that they could have cleaned up there. So my biggest gripes with the movie, other than that mention of Steppenwolf there, like I said, Steppenwolf could have been a more interesting character. I thought some of the CG just really looked shockingly bad considering how big of a movie this is. There was a lot of rough green screen towards the end of the movie. The way that the mother box was spreading out around the that countryside and everything, it almost looked like a bad screensaver or something. It just really did not look good. I thought it was also odd that they kept focusing on just one family that was in danger, where they should have showed more people in danger and really showed what effect all this was having on them, the parademons and everything. That was a little bit weird. That's kind of an odd choice. Henry Cavill not being able to shave and them having to fix that with CGI definitely did not work for the most part. It did look awkward, and I hate that the movie actually opened up with a close-up of Superman where clearly something was not right with his face. So that was an unfortunate situation. The movie did lack depth. I know a lot of people are complaining about that, and I can see that. At the same time, I had a lot of fun with the movie, so that doesn't bother me as much. I know they can go in depth with the characters more with the follow-ups, even though I feel like Warner Brothers' plan is going to change now because this movie hasn't performed the way that they wanted it to. My biggest gripe with this movie, other than the special effects, because that's a heavy one, is the fact that they brought back Clark Kent. Bringing back Superman, cool. But how in the world do they explain Clark Kent coming back from the dead? Because remember, there was a funeral for him too at the end of Batman vs. Superman. So to me, that's a big gaping plot hole. I feel like they shouldn't have brought back Clark Kent. It should have just been Superman returned. I mean, does he really need those checks from the Daily Planet? I don't think so. He has a friend that's a billionaire. And then also, Superman is highly intelligent within the comics. So I think he could find a way to make a living and to be a full-time hero. You know, so I just don't like that they brought back Clark Kent, excuse me. And I think that he really is just a huge plot hole that I hope they address, because if they don't, then something's not right there. It really doesn't make sense. I do want to say here a quick side note, and I'm not going to give any spoilers for the Punisher series, because I know that some people have not watched it all yet, but I know this is one thing that kind of ate into the Justice League's box office, because I know a lot of people did stay home to check out the Punisher. I'm just gonna say real quick, and again, no spoiler here, I felt like 13 episodes really hurt that season of Punisher, you know, this first season of Punisher, because there were a lot of story threads that were stretched out. There were a lot of story beats that were repeated again and again and again. It probably should have been just 10 episodes, and it would have been a lot more solid in my opinion. Not a bad season, but, you know, I think the second season has got to be a lot better than the first, because I think the first just, like I said, if things weren't so stretched out, it would have been a lot better. And hopefully Disney won't snatch everything away from Netflix too soon, because remember, Disney does have their own streaming service up and coming, so that means that these Marvel shows may disappear from Netflix in the next 2 to 3 years. You know, we'll see what happens there, but I really hope that Punisher does get a second season, and we really do get to see a lot more interesting things going on, basically, because this season was pretty much all background and him cleaning up things from the past, and I would like to see more of him moving forward and maybe going a little bit more into a comic book feeling realm, because this very much was played like real world type things, even though the brutality was definitely over, I hate to say it, I guess over dramatized is the way to say it, basically. So moving on with the movies here to my top 3. At number 3 is Logan. I absolutely loved the performance in this movie. I thought Hugh Jackman was at his best, probably the best I've seen him in anything. Patrick Stewart was very solid as well, and you know, the young actress that played X-23 did a phenomenal job. You know, this cast, those three just worked so well together. I really love the emotional weight to this movie, and the action was pretty solid too. I mean, especially seeing X-23 do her thing, and then the Las Vegas scene where the those soldiers were frozen and everything, and Logan was working his way around them. That was pretty awesome. I did not see that coming, that type of scene coming, and I really did enjoy it. So yeah, the emotion of this movie just really brought it all together. Now, this movie definitely was not without its faults. It had very bland villains, and I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but you know, it's true. I mean, villains pretty bland there. And also Fox is not good about dealing with the timeline of this franchise and dealing with what characters are used where, because you know, we saw Caliban used in X-Men Apocalypse as a straight up villain, and then we saw Stephen Merchant playing a much more sympathetic version of Caliban within this movie, and it's like, I wish people at Fox would actually talk to each other to work those things out. Something else I gotta say about Logan, even though I really enjoyed this movie, it probably would have been at number 2 or number 1, but I think this is that type of movie where you gotta be in the mood to watch it, because it is pretty much a tragedy. It's a sad movie. I mean, overall, you know, it's entertaining definitely, but it's a very sad movie at the same time. So yeah, and that's not really a knock against it, but yeah, I think you have to be in the right mood to check it out. Me personally, I definitely have to be, you know, in the right mood for it. But overall, I'm glad that Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart are saying that they're done with, you know, the X-Men franchise, because I just don't think it gets any better than this for them, you know, what they did with Logan. So Wonder Woman at number 2. I did not do a review of Wonder Woman on my channel, and I felt like I didn't need to. I mean, it's an amazing movie, so I mean, I think that's kind of obvious. And I really like the, you know, Gal Gadot proving all the critics wrong. You know, I wish that comic book fans would go ahead and learn to keep their mouths, you know, closed for the time being, and wait and see how an actor does before they criticize, because again and again, you know, fanboys get proven wrong, and this is another time where they got proven wrong. Like, Gal Gadot did an amazing job. I love how the character, you know, in terms of Amazonian, she's actually young. And she was kind of naive within the movie to a certain extent. You know, she thought that by taking out one villain that would stop all the war in the world. And she saw that's not the way that it is, that mankind is just self-destructive, you know, so she had to learn some things there. I really like that aspect of it, and, you know, yet at the same time, she was a strong character. I liked her relationship with, you know, Chris Pine's character, in that, you know, some people, there were, I'm not going to just say some people, let me be very blunt about it. There were some feminists that took some issue with this movie, which I don't get why. You know, some people pointed out the relationship wasn't necessary, but I thought it was. You know, and remember, even during the, well, they didn't show a full-on love scene, but they kind of set one up. She was the one that initiated, you know, so I just don't understand people complaining for no good reason. I thought this was a very solid representation of a female hero, and just a hero in general. You know, it's not even about gender. This was just a good representation of a hero. And I was actually wondering, how are they going to pull off interesting action and everything with this, you know, this World War I era, you know, going on. I was like, how are they really going to make this interesting? But they absolutely did. You know, so I thought that was pretty awesome. There was some great action within this, even though I feel like some of the action maybe could have been extended a little bit. Overall, it was pretty solid, and I really did like the Amazonians. I mean, the Amazonians, they are some tough characters, and Robin Wright Penn was amazing. I really loved her character, you know, as well. And even though she wasn't in the movie like a long time, when her character died, that was impactful, you know. So yeah, I thought it was very solid. The movie is not perfect. There are a few nitpicks. Basically, there were some side characters that were way underdeveloped, but I mean, they did mainly focus on you know, Wonder Woman and then Chris Pine's character, which I'm glad Chris Pine got to do more than I expected him to have to do in this movie. That was pretty solid. But yeah, there were some side characters that were underdeveloped. I actually thought Dr. Poison or Dr. Maru should have had more to do, but she was just kind of a villain, and she was all about her poison pretty much. You know, it would have been nice if she had more to do there. Even Ares probably could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but they really wanted to do that reveal of him and everything. And yeah, once again, we got a CG villain, which I was okay with Ares being represented by CGI, but yeah, he definitely looked goofy when they showed the actor's face within the helmet. That did not work. I don't know who looked at that and thought that was okay. They should have kept it just, you know, maybe just show his eyes and the rest of the face kind of blacked out or something. Just did something different there, you know, because that did take me out of the movie a little bit. And I really wish we had saw more of when Wonder Woman kind of raged out after Steve Trevor died. I would have liked that to have been extended a little bit, where she was like tossing around the soldiers and just really angry. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And but like before I could barely get the word cool, you know, out, it was over with, you know. And then she was fighting Ares. But it was pretty awesome though. Like overall, Wonder Woman, very solid movie. So my number one movie, comic book movie of the year, and really I'm just going to say number one movie altogether, because I absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I'm going to be quick here with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because I've actually done a full review on my channel before, and my opinions about it really haven't changed. I thought every character had a moment to shine. I really did appreciate that. You know, all of the members of the team. It was really great to see you know, Star-Lord and Ego, their interaction, you know, him interacting with his real father. There was that very nice moment where they played catch with each other. I thought, you know, it was very cool, like the whole father-son aspect. I really did like the way that was handled. And I was just completely blindsided by, I never really thought of Yondu being like a father figure for Star-Lord, but I mean, he was. And Yondu, for me, really stole the show. Like I said, every character got their moment to shine, but I think Yondu just stole the show. And when he had that confrontation with Rocket, because Rocket was just very angry throughout most of the movie, but Yondu, you know, saying that, you know, pointing out to him that you and I are alike, you know, a lot of times we're angry, and you know, he basically calming Rocket down. Like, I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. And that was kind of, you know, emotionally impactful. And then Yondu's sacrifice was definitely, you know, emotional. You know, and then on top of that, Yondu's funeral, where the Ravagers showed up and they're shooting off the fireworks and everything. I was like, my God, like, it's just, I did not expect this movie to be as emotional as it was, and it really was. You know, it had a lot of great emotion to it, and it just worked for me. So I had a lot of fun with the movie too. It's not like it was all drama. I mean, definitely a lot of good humor, and I like that they held back in certain places. Like, I really thought they were going to be tempted to overdo it with Baby Groot, but they didn't, and I thought they used him just enough. So yeah, this movie, it just worked on so many levels for me. Now, like all the other movies, it's not perfect. I feel like the actress that plays Nebula maybe overdoes it at times, way too much grimacing, and you know, just the way she delivers her line, even she just puts maybe a little bit too much on it. So in terms of the cast, she probably is the weak point. She still had a nice scene with Gamora though that I did like. The Sovereign, they were basically used as a comic relief almost to an extent, or the gold people as some people would call them, but they weren't meant to be the main villain, so I'm okay with that overall. And they did set up for Adam Warlock as well, so it'll be interesting to see where that plays out. Drax and Mantis weren't given a whole lot to do. They did have some good comedic moments though, and I especially like that through Mantis, we got to see Drax's pain. That was a beautiful scene, because Drax, I don't think he really would be that type of guy to openly show his emotions. So I like that we got to see the pain that he carries inside through her. But other than that, yeah, they weren't given like a ton to do. The character Taserface was basically just a punchline, and not a great one at that. So I think he probably was the weakest character overall. And then there was the Pac-Man moment during the last confrontation with Ego, where that joke just felt out of place. When I was in the theater, nobody laughed at it. It just, you know, with Star-Lord just having found out what actually happened to his mother, I think that joke was a little bit poorly timed, you know. So yeah, it just didn't work. But that's kind of a nitpick. So even, you know, even though I have some nitpicks about this movie, overall, like I said, I absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm looking forward to owning this movie, even though if you haven't heard, it is going to actually come to Netflix for December, and I don't know how long it'll be on there. Like I said, you know, Disney has their streaming service coming up, but I don't think that's going to happen for like 2 or 3 years. But yeah, if you want to check the movie out again, be on the lookout for it for Netflix if you have it on Netflix, you know, or if you have Netflix, excuse me. So it's your turn. This was not an easy thing for me to do, and this is a long video, you know, because I did cover 6 movies here. But yeah, I want you to rank this year's comic book movies. You don't really need to comment so much on my ranking because, like I said, I know we're not all going to agree with each other. This is just my personal opinions, but I really want to hear your opinions. I want you to rank the movies and, you know, explain, at least tell me why your top movie is your top movie, and maybe why your bottom movie is that bottom movie for you. You don't maybe have to break down every movie, but if you want to, hey, go for it. I definitely look forward to the comments. So that is going to do it. Thanks for watching, especially if you stuck with me for this long video here. But you know, I just want to nerd out and really talk about these movies, especially the ones that I hadn't reviewed on my channel, including Thor Ragnarok and Justice League. So and I'm not sure if I did a standalone, well, I think I did do a standalone review for Spider-Man. I actually can't even remember at this point because I do so much on my channel. But yeah, I definitely wanted to address the movies that I hadn't done somewhat in depth. But yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you that stuck with me all the way through this video. Don't forget to drop a like on the video, and if you are new and you enjoyed the video, also subscribe. And like I said, I'm really going to be in those comments checking out what you all have to say. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, and I will talk to you all again real soon.